Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is our 2021-2022 season predictions where we bring you basically from 20 to 1 what we think every single team is going to finish this year in the Premier League. We're going to be hearing from the whole gang, so make sure you get your opinions in the comments below. Who do you think's finishing top 4? Who do you think's getting relegated? Who's going to finish in that sort of weird, not in the Europa Conference but not getting relegated position? Let me know in the comments below. Let's start off with a little bit from Adam McCullough.
In at number 20, I have got Watford. I don't think they've got enough to stay up. I don't think they've got enough goals. They obviously still have Ismail Assar. How long that lasts, I don't know. They still have Troy Deeney, who could pop up with a few goals, but I just don't feel like they've done enough in this transfer window to ensure their safety in the Premier League this season, and I think they will go straight down.
I've been sort of toying over this, and I want to be clever, and I want to be sort of, optimistic and give hope to the teams that have just been promoted, but I'm not going to do that. I think bottom will be Brentford. And I know that's harsh. I know they've just been promoted to the Premier League for the first ever time, but that's why I'm putting in bottom. I think it is going to be a bit of a struggle for them.
Right, then here's my thoughts then. I've written it down. I'm very, 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 very studious, and I've written it down. Let's just start from the bottom, because we'll save that good stuff for the end. Starting at number 20, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this to you, Norwich are going down. And I'm not going to say, man, as though it's my opinion. I'm saying it as though it's fact. Norwich are going down this year. Their whole business model is go up, get relegated. Go up, get relegated. Go up, get relegated. So they've come up. They're going to get relegated. Brentford in 19th, same thing. Not been in the league before. It's a difficult division. They've got a decent squad, but I don't think it will be enough to hang on when you look at some of the other teams knocking about.
This is a left field prediction, right? Because I've got a feeling that despite the fact they've got a manager in Graham Potter, who everyone loves, and despite the fact they were 7th or whatever in XG, apparently, whatever that means, and they've got Danny Welbeck, who's one of the greatest footballers in the history of the game, I think they might struggle, Brian. I think it might be one of them. They've lost Ben White. Now, I'm not saying that you take Ben White out of the Brighton team and it all comes crumbling down, but sometimes teams get sucked into it a little bit. Teams that have, been there or thereabouts, and they end up just finding it almost one season too far.
In at number 19, I have got Norwich. Now, the reason I've put Norwich in there is pretty much for the same reason. Yes, they still have Timu Pukki, but is he enough to keep them up? Is he enough? They've lost Buendia. They could potentially be losing Todd Cantwell as well in this summer transfer window. If that was to happen, I just don't see how they're going to stay up.
In 18th, I have gone for Burnley, another team that has been hanging on in recent years. They always seem to put a little run together just after Christmas that keeps them up. But I think this year their luck may well run out. They've got a decent squad, a very good manager. I think Sean Dyche has done great things at Burnley. I just think there's a couple of teams, Newcastle, Southampton, Burnley, Palace, where you're sort of going, they could go down. And I've picked, the Lord has picked Burnley, unfortunately, to go down this season.
In at number 18, now this may be a surprise to some, but I have got Wolves being the final team to go down. They've lost Nuno Espirito Santo. Obviously, they do have Raul Jimenez returning, but they could be potentially losing someone like Ruben Neves in the side as well, who's been put up for sale, if you believe the reports in the press, and he could leave before the transfer window ends. But you've just seen a steady decline from Wolves, and with the change of manager, they have got recruitment right in the past, so they could do it again and prove me wrong. But I've got a feeling, for some reason, Wolves are going down.
In number 18, the final relegation place, I've gone with, and again, this is a bit of a, really? Is that how you're going? A bit of a wild prediction, shall we say. Because this is a team that have become much mainstays of the Premier League, and they've done relatively well over the years. They're one of those teams that often sort of upsets the odds. People expect them to just crumble, and they don't. But I get the feeling that they are susceptible to getting dragged into a relegation fight, and also I don't know if they are progressing. I think they're going backwards a little bit. They've just lost Danny Ings, who's a big player for them. So obviously I'm talking about Southampton. Hasenhüttl is a good manager, but they're a team that, we beat 9-0, admittedly. They had a lot of injuries, and then they went down to 10 men, and then eventually 9 men. But yeah, I just think that this is this could be a season where, a bit like Brighton, it might just be a step too far. And the fact they lose someone like Ings who weighs in with the goals, maybe that's going to affect him.
Just scraping in there in 17th place is Watford, newly promoted. They've got a bit more of that sort of top flight pedigree than Brentford have.
I'm going to go with Norwich. Now, I think if you offered Norwich 17th now, they'd probably take it. And that's not being disparaging towards Norwich City, but I'm sure their priority is to stay in the Premier League. They obviously came up and went back down and then came up again. But I think, this sounds weird, but I think that was almost part of the plan. They've always been, not to get again, obviously, but they had a longer term plan and they almost got promoted a bit too quick.
Just escaping relegation and in 17th, I've got newcomers, Brentford, the only team I'm predicting that have come up to stay up. And the reason why is their recruitment is fantastic. Their manager's pretty good too. And Ivan Toney, I think, will bag goals for them. 10 plus in the Premier League, I think is doable for him. That 10 is about a 1 in 4, 1 in 3.8 games. I think he'll be able to get 10 plus goals and he'll be the difference between the Watfords and the Norwich, who will go down in my predictions anyway. So I've got Brentford in 17th.
16th, then it's Southampton. Again, just in that dogfight. Like I said, there's a few teams stuck around it. I reckon between about 14th and 17th, there's going to be like 3 points in it. None of these teams are particularly good. They all seem to be kind of in that sinking ship mode that you see teams go in. Newcastle were in it a few years ago before they relegated. Wigan had a similar feeling. Sunderland had a similar feeling where you're like, at some point you're going to go down. It's just when. And I think, Southampton, again, will just hang on to 16th.
16th place, Crystal Palace. Now, they've got Patrick Vieira coming in and they've made some good signings, like Elise, I think's a decent signing. But with the new manager, is he going to hit the ground running? Maybe not. They've got a lot of young players since letting loads go at the end of their contracts. They've managed to keep hold of Zaha, but Eze's got a serious injury. I've got a feeling it's going to be a difficult season for Crystal Palace.
Now, this is going to be a surprise to many, but I think this is a team who have been in decline for a couple of years now, and that's Wolves. They lost the manager, obviously. Nuno's gone to Spurs. They've not lost loads of players, but they have been losing a few players. They lost obviously Jota to the Scousers last year. Just lost Jimenez through injury. I know he's back now, but I don't feel like there's that momentum and buzz around Wolves that there was. Obviously, they had the big billionaire takeover. They had the ties to Jorge Mendes for the Portuguese connection there. They were getting all these players in that they probably never even dreamed of. But I just feel like the party's almost over.
Same can be said in 15th for Newcastle. Not doing very well. Steve Bruce managed to claw him out last season. There's always this sort of perennial takeover rumour that's going on. I don't think the fans are even fooled by it anymore. Who knows what will happen with Steve Bruce? The fans aren't a big fan of him either. I think a couple of bad signings or maybe an early sacking and they replace him with someone that's even worse, which, let's be honest, is possible. And I think Newcastle will really be fighting. But again, I think they will stay up. 15th place.
15th. Sorry, Danny Welbs. Love you, bro. But I've gone Brighton. Even with Danny Welbeck's just pure genius. Unfortunately, I've got them finishing 15th. I think someone's going to pick up Graham Potter, And I think maybe you wait a little bit and Everton end up, sacking Rafa Benitez, or maybe I'm going to predict Rafa Benitez to do good things later. But I don't know, I can see someone sacking someone and Graham Potter ends up there, and Brighton, who last season they were involved in a relegation battle because they didn't convert their chances. Now, they could recruit well and potentially change that. But I think Potter's a manager that will be eyed up, and if he goes, they could be in for a difficult season. They could be in for a difficult season anyway. So I've got them 15th.
Newcastle are a team that have struggled. I don't think Steve Bruce is the most popular man on Tyneside. The fans don't seem to like him that much. But he keeps them relatively mid-table. And last season and the season before, it's been pretty much the same. And they finished 12th last season. So they've obviously got enough quality there. And I think they can avoid relegation again this season. But I think in 15th, it may well be that sort of thing where the fans are unhappy and the owners look at it and go, we're not going anywhere with Bruce, even though I don't think he's been back properly at all. And maybe they move him on at the end of the season. I hope not, because I like Steve Bruce, as I said. But I think, it's going to be one of those where they stay out of the relegation battle, sort of, but they don't do anything much bigger than that.
Finally, then rounding out that sort of all could go down up until about 3 weeks before the end of the season, Crystal Palace. They're struggling. They've faltered recently. Zaha's not been firing the way he was a couple of years ago. They just seem to be sort of circling the drain a little bit. They'll hang in there, but for me, 14th is about as good as Palace can hope for this season.
Gone with Burnley. Burnley are just Burnley, aren't they? Difficult to beat at home, not that great away, although they have had some results against us, to be fair. And just a team that, dogged, resilient, hard-working, Sean Dyche, you know what I'm on about. They're just that, aren't they? And Turf Moor, it's not like a great away day, is it? But, it's one of those. Burnley are Burnley, and they'll Burnley. They'll finish 14th.
Sorry, True Geordie. It's going to be Newcastle. Stevie Bruce's Newcastle. To be fair, that would probably be good for them, given the summer that they've had as we speak right now. Mike Ashley being in charge, a guy that clearly doesn't want to own the club anymore. He wants to sell it, and until he gets that sale, or they're in danger of going down, he's not really going to act. Signing Willock could be a good signing for them, but I don't think that will have enough to get them pushing towards 10th and maybe the top half of the table. I'm going for 14th.
In 13th, I've gone with Watford. Now, this sounds like a bit of a push. Watford, wow, come they've just, got promoted and flying up the table. I just feel like sometimes you always get a team, don't you, that gets promoted and surprises everyone. Remember Sheffield United a couple of seasons ago, where he's just like, what's going on here? Like, top half of the table. And I just have a sneaky feeling maybe Watford could do that. Again, like I said earlier, it's not like I've got loads of intuition, loads of sort of analysis or insight into Watford. But just maybe they could surprise everyone.
13th, and I think there's going to be a little gap here. So I think the next 3 teams I'm talking about, the next 4 teams, I reckon will all be relatively safe by Christmas. Obviously, anyone can have a disastrous 2022, but I think most of these teams will be safe. Number 13, Leeds, unlucky for some. Unlucky if you play for Leeds or live in Leeds, so 13th.
13th, I'm going Sean Dyche's Burnley.
In 12th, I've gone with West Ham. I don't think West Ham are going to have the season they had last season. I don't think Jesse Lingard's going to go back there. I think that was them almost punching above the weight a little bit, and Jesse having such an amazing few months there where he got 9 goals and I think 5 assists or whatever it was. I think they'll struggle in terms of recreating that, but I think they'll be safe, and I think it'll be back to form for them, which is kind of like mid to bottom half of the table-ish.
Number 12, Aston Villa. Just don't think they quite have the quality. I know they're spending money and they're trying to get big players in, and they have got some good players, but I think the whole mentality and the mental side of losing Jack Grealish will mean that it'll just, 12th isn't a bad spot. I'm not knocking them. I know they want to push up for those Europa Conference places, but I just think it's going to be difficult because some of the teams above them have got a bit more pedigree, have been in and around the league a little bit longer. I know Villa were there for a long time, but this is only their 3rd year back up in the top flight. So for me, Aston Villa, 12th place.
12th, Southampton. Could be, Will Harson, who will get the boot this season. He seems like a good coach, but he always seems to do well and then fall off a little bit. They've lost Danny Ings, who was a crucial source of goals for them. Could be a tricky season for them. Obviously, staying in the Premier League's good. 12th isn't that bad, really, when you're given some of the competition in the league. But Southampton are one of those teams over the last few years that you felt could maybe push on a little bit, maybe get a Europa League or something, but not this season.
Number 11 then is Wolves, Wolverhampton Wanderers. It's the Battle of Birmingham there in mid-table. I think Wolves will just come out on top. They've just got that history, haven't they? They were just a comfortable top 10 team, up until about 18 months ago. Jimenez obviously fractured his skull and things went downhill from there.
I've also gone with Crystal Palace in 11th. Now, you could swap them round. It's either or for me. I think Palace, a team that you look at and you go, they're going to get sucked in, they're going to get relegated. When Palace lose a game or two, I always think this is it now. They're going to drop. They're going to get sucked into the relegation zone and just, that's the end of that. But they always seem to sort of stick around, don't they? And again, they're one of those teams that, they lose players and you always look at it and go, can they keep losing these players? Can they do this? And is it going to be a step too far?
11th, going for West Ham. I think the Europa League could have a negative impact on their season. Also, they're probably not going to get Jesse Lingard, who was a massive influence on them last season. But to be fair, before they got Jesse Lingard, they were pretty good, you know what I mean? But I do think Other teams will improve in the campaign this season. There may be a little bit of a drop-off as well. And, you know, David Moyes has never really been liked by the West Ham fans. Now, after last season, they're probably liking him a little bit. But you can imagine if the football isn't great or the results turn a little bit, there could be a little bit of a pressure on him.
In 10th then, now we're in the top half of the table, West Ham United. They were fighting for Europe last season. I just think that it's just going to be too much from this year. I think 10th place, there's some good teams above them. I think a lot of the teams that were above them that didn't do quite so well last season will have sort of ironed out a few of the problems that they've had.
10th, mid-table, mediocrity, Tottenham. Even if they keep Kane, which wouldn't surprise me, but they're going to have a player on their hands who isn't happy. Could still score a few goals, but that's going to spread throughout the rest of the team. Is Nuno the man to bring them forward? You know, he did well with Wolves at the start, but you just look at that team and you don't see much there. Christian Romero's a decent signing from Juventus in that defence, but there's not much there. And, you know, losing Kane as well.
In 10th, I've got Leeds. Very good season last season. I think they'll recreate it this season. I think they've kept hold of most of the players at the time of recording this anyway. Bielsa's obviously a very good manager. Crowds at Old Trafford, they wish. At Ellen Road, it's a difficult place to go. Not with fans there, not a nice place to go, trust me. So I think they'll be all right. I think they'll stay in 10th, unfortunately, because I'd love to see him. I don't know with Leeds, because I don't like him, but there are rivals, aren't there? So you want to play him. Maybe I'd prefer him if they finish 17th or something, but I've gone with 10th.
Number 9, and this is one of the big sort of chances I've taken here. One of the sort of risky ones. I'm putting Brighton in top 10. I'm putting Brighton in 9. And that's where they're going. And Brighton will finish 9th because I've written it down. So Brighton finishing 9th. I think they were very unlucky last season. I know it's a bit of a dark horse. It's a bit of an easy one. Or if they had a striker, they'd be da-da-da-da-da. I get it. There's a lot of teams that can say, well, if we had a great striker, we'd finish top 10. That's most teams.
In 9th, Arsenal. Arsenal. Who's better than Arteta? A lot of people, as you already know. Where the goal's going to come from, Aubameyang seems to have dried up. Could he return to form of before? Probably not. I think if he does return to form, it'll probably be like 10, 15 goals. I can't see much coming from Aubameyang, Lacazette. I think Thomas Partey was a good signing, but he's had his injuries for them. You know, Kieran Tierney's been a good signing. Smith Rowe, Saka, they're good players, but Arsenal, Arteta, I don't think that will last for long. Going for Arsenal in 9th.
9th, I have got Everton. Everton, don't they? That's what they do. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have this sort of thing where they might buy one or two players and it's like, oh, and they've got like Benitez in there. But, yeah, they're always going to be, for me, just a team that's there.
Number 8, Everton. I honestly can't even say any more than that. They just seem to finish there pretty much every season. They get Ancelotti, you know, he's won multiple Champions Leagues as a manager. They get Rodriguez, they get Alan from Napoli, they get all these things. Still finish, 8th, 9th, 10th, 7th. That's just what they do every single time. They're going to do it again. 8th place, Everton. Getting
towards the sort of the real business end now, aren't we? I've gone with Spurs. Spurs have been a bit of a shambles, haven't they, for a while now. They had the whole I was going to say managerial merry-go-round, but it wasn't even that. It was like managerial vacancy merry-go-round where loads of managers were linked with a job and it looked like it was going to happen, then it didn't, and eventually they got Nuno, who was probably like 5th choice. If they keep Harry Kane, they've got a puncher's chance of getting into the Champions League because he'll always get you goals. Don't know if that's going to happen. It looks like City are going to go for him and may well get him. But I'm going to stick him in 8th because I think the fact that they are in a bit of turmoil, the fact that Harry Kane potentially could be leaving, and if he does stay, he might be staying there begrudgingly and might be, you know, a little bit upset.
8th, and another decent season for Bielsa. I've got Leeds.
Right, in number 7 then, it is Arsenal. They had to feature at some point, didn't they? And I think it's a testament to just how far they've fallen, the fact that people will in the comments will be going, can't believe you're putting them as high as 7th. How mad is that? This is Arsenal we're talking about. They've fallen so far. They're not even in Europe this season. They're playing like prelims of the League Cup. They're basically playing against like semi-pro teams, which isn't even possible because it's only the Football League in the League Cup. But that's how low they are. They're playing in that because they're not in Europe. And I think the fact that they're not in Europe will give them that extra impetus in the league, less games to be played, less distractions. And, you know, they're going to get knocked out of the Cups pretty early. So I reckon Arsenal will fly all the way up to 7th spot this season.
Now, this may be a surprise to some. after losing their main man. I've got Aston Villa. They lost Jack Grealish, but they've recruited really well. Buendia was a fantastic signing. Leon Bailey, who has been putting numbers up there with some of the best wingers in Europe. You look at the other Danny Ings, as well, who was another fantastic signing for them. They've been linked with the likes of Todd Cantwell too. They've recruited really well. And when you look at their team, Axel Twanzebe coming in at defence, they've got the likes of Douglas and McGinn, who did really well in the league last season. Aston Villa have recruited well. You think they will continue to recruit well as the summer goes on, linked with the likes of Ward-Prowse, etc. I think they'll do all right.
A team that could do a little bit better is Arsenal. Now, last season, Arsenal were 8th and Spurs were 7th. I think that might swap around this season. I think Arsenal might get 7th and Spurs get 8th. They've obviously, neither of them have strengthened massively. I think Arsenal brought in a few players. But maybe Arsenal can just secure a top 7 finish, which for Arsenal would be pretty big, wouldn't it?
Right, top 6. This is the big boys. Buckle in. This is where it starts getting tasty. This is your proper European competition. None of this Europa Conference. The Europa League, which is the greatest, European competition. Then it's the Champions League spots coming after that, which is pretty good as well. Number 6, Leicester. I like Leicester. I do think the bubble will burst with them at some point. I think a lot of people may have seen the stats about wages to turnover. They're paying over 105% of their turnover on wages, which, for anyone who owns a business or who has ever heard of the word business, that is bad business, because you shouldn't be spending more on wages than you earn in a year.
In 6, I've got Everton. Now, Rafa Benitez, and I know I've said earlier, kind of hinted that he could be someone that gets sacked and replaced by another, but I actually think, despite the fact there could be a few murmurs if the results don't go right for him, I think he could do well there. As long as he can manage the supporters, I think he will eventually get the results. I think he will get them playing good football. Whether that means attractive football, I don't know. But defensively, he'll get them sound. And he will, get their forward players playing to their strengths.
For 6, I've gone with Villa. Lost Jack Grealish. Spent the money before he'd gone, actually. Brought in some good players like Leon Bailey, like Danny Ings. And I think they might actually surprise a lot of people. I think they've got a good manager in Dean Smith. Got a lot of players who've been there a while. Tyrone Mings is the new flavour of the month. Not just for what he does on the pitch, but for the fact he does some good stuff off the pitch, mainly holding the Home Secretary to account for her advocating booing players taking the knee against racism and then trying to pretend she cares about racism. I'm a big fan of all that. So I've put them in 6. They're a team, Villa, though. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish 16th, but I think they could do bits this season because of the signings they've made and the reasons I've given. So I've got them in 6th.
Number 5 then, 5th in the league, just missing out on the Champions League spots, and this one's a bit of a risk. I've gone for Spurs, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I think their manager is very good. It was only a couple of years ago when he was doing wondrous things at Wolves that people were linking him with the Real Madrid job, people were linking him with the Barcelona job, people linking him with the Man United job. And now, all of a sudden, because they've had a bad year because their striker broke his head, people think that he can't manage anymore. Nuno Espirito Santo, for me, is an excellent manager. Things went a bit stale at Wolves, but again, they lost their main goal scorer with a fractured skull. It's going to be difficult to replace that.
5th, the Scousers, Liverpool. Now, you may think this is wishful thinking because apparently they had a few injuries last season, which they didn't like to mention, and those players are coming back from injuries, and they've got some very, very good players. And are they really going to finish 5th with the likes of Mo Salah and Sadio Mane and Virgil van Dijk and I don't know, Andrew Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold and Alisson and all the rest of it? Probably not, but this is my predicted table, and you never know.
5th, missing out on Champions League, Liverpool. This could change, by the way. But I don't think their recruitment's been great so far. They have been linked with Saul Niguez, who would be a fantastic signing for them. And we've discussed him potentially coming to Manchester United. Would be a great signing for us. But I think Liverpool will miss out on the Champions League because of their lack of recruitment. That invincibility that they had seems to have gone now. Obviously, they have got Virgil van Dijk back, and they've signed the young man from Leipzig, who's a very good defender. But I think they'll miss out on top 4.
Right then, here we go. Business end now. None of this Europa League stuff. Champions League. Number 4, and you're not going to like this, some of you. It's not United, I'm joking. It's Chelsea. I think they're being overhyped. I think they've got a nice little manager in there. Won them the Champions League. Won them a little bit of a trophy. You know, fair enough. It's good. We like the Champions League. It's a great trophy. I'm not going to knock that. But I just think the teams above them are better than them. I think the top four is going to be really tight this year. I just think that Chelsea don't quite have that extra little thing going on. The defence is suspect. They've got a great midfield. They've got, you know, Lukaku coming in will be excellent up front, but Havertz, suspect. Ziyech, suspect. Werner, suspect.
Fourth, I've got Leicester City. They're always the bridesmaid, never the bride when it comes to top four, apart from the season when they won the league, of course. Missed out sort of late doors, didn't they, in the end of the season, last couple of seasons. Won the FA Cup, obviously, last season, which has been great. And, obviously, a few seasons ago, well, about 6 seasons ago, whatever it was, 5 or 6 seasons ago, they won the Premier League. So they have had success. I just feel like this might be the season for Brendan Rodgers to get him into the top four. So I've got him in fourth. I don't think anyone would mind that, really. I wouldn't mind it as a Manchester United fan if it was, you know, as long as we got in the top four and it wasn't at our expense. If Leicester got in the top four, I think a lot of people would like to see that because they're quite a popular club, aren't they, with a lot of fans. You look at the way they run, you look at the owners, and obviously they went through that tragedy and the owner's sons took over and they've got some good players there. I wouldn't mind a few of the Leicester players, to be honest. I'd happily take Wilfred and Ndidi or Youri Tielemans at United. So, yeah, I've got them in fourth. I think this could be the season they get into the top four.
Sneaking into the top four, Leicester. I've got Leicester in at 4. Their recruitment's been very good. Patson Daka coming in, really, really good. Boubakary Samari as well, really good signing. Shrewd signings from Leicester City. And there's talk about them potentially losing James Maddison, but no one would blink an eyelid because despite how good of a player he can be, Leicester City are a team that recruit really well. Managed to keep hold of Tielemans so far, although he has been linked with a move and could potentially leave. Leicester City have a very, very good side, very good recruitment, a decent coach as well, a good fan base that very rarely get on their back. It's always pretty much positive vibes at Leicester.
This is a big one. Manchester City. I think they'll finish third. I think the only chance United have got of winning the league is if City drop off like they did 2 seasons ago. City do this. If they're really good, they're almost impossible to beat. If they're on one of their good seasons, good luck. It's so difficult to beat them when they're on, and we know that. We can defend it, we can act like we don't believe it all we want, but deep down we know City are the team to beat. I think for us to beat them, they have to have an off year, unfortunately, and we've seen them have off years, and when they do, they're like 20 points off, not 3-4 points off. City don't lose the league by little bits. They lose it by fucking loads, or they win it. So for me, if City aren't going to win it, they ain't finishing second either. They'll finish third. Manchester City, third place. Bit of strange logic there, but I think you know what I mean.
In at third, Chelsea. Big challengers for the title this season. Romelu Lukaku coming in, huge signing for them. I think he's improved as a striker and I think he'll improve them as a team. Thomas Tuchel with another season in charge of them. Pre-season behind them. They'll be a very, very good team this season. I don't think they'll show as much frailties, and I think it is a 3-4 horse race for the title with Chelsea firmly in the mix.
Third, people are going to laugh at this. People are going to question it. People are going to say, you've got your tinted glasses on and no, you just better, whatever. But, hear me out, right? 2001, Manchester United had just won the title for the 3rd year running, right? 99, 2000, 2001. We went and got Juan Sebastian Veron, the best midfielder in the world, the man that had just delivered the Scudetto to Lazio. We went and got Rui van Nistelrooy, who turned out to be one of the greatest strikers the Premier League has ever seen, if not the greatest, for me the greatest. And we finished third. It can happen, so that's why I've put City third.
Number 2 then, obviously, it depends now, what am I going to say? Am I going to sit here and go, I think Man United will come second to Liverpool, or am I going to sit here, which I am, and say Liverpool will finish second? I think Liverpool's team is better than it was. I think obviously, certain elements, things are lagging behind a little bit, but they'll have way less injuries this season. Van Dijk will be back. They've got Konate in there as well, so I think that defence will be shored up. If they can keep the injuries off, I think they'll be almost as good as they were 2 years ago. I don't think they'll be quite as good. I think they'll be much harder to beat. They've lost some of that mentality that was so good about them for that 18 months when they won the Champions League, and then let's not forget, a whole season later, won the Premier League, but they did win those 2 trophies in back-to-back years. They've lost a bit of that mentality. I don't think they'll be able to get that 96, 97, 98 points like they have done in the past. But I do think they'll be much better this year. City are dropping off. We already know that. That's established. It says it there. City are dropping off. I think Liverpool will fill that gap that City should be filling. I think they'll do well this season. I think they'll be much better than they have been, but they're only finishing second.
In at number 2, Manchester City.
Second, I've got Chelsea. Tommy Tuchel won the Champions League, spending loads of money, bringing in Lukaku. I don't think he's the best striker in the world, but he'll probably get them goals that they need to have a title challenge. So I've got him second.
And that means then Manchester United will win the league next season. We've got to be a bit lucky with injuries, but you know what? For once, I'm hopeful we will be. United have had such bad luck with injuries over the years, playing Michael Carrick at centre-back. We've all been there. We all know the drill there. I just think if we keep it right, Pogba, Bruno, Cavani, Maguire, I think if those 4 stay fit for extended periods of the season, I think we've got a very good chance of winning the league. Sancho coming in, Varane coming in. Who knows if anyone else will come in on top of that as well. But I think our starting 11 is as good as anyone's in the league. We already know City are having a dip. We know that. That goes without saying. Liverpool will come back, but they won't be as strong as they used to be. And that leaves the way for Manchester United. Third, second, first. We're going to win the league.
First place, the one and only Manchester United Football Club. Why not? We need a midfielder. I know that, and I've said that we need a midfielder to win the league, and we haven't got one at the time recording this, so how can I think we're going to win the league? Well, I just do. I think we might get a midfielder, and if we don't, who knows? Maybe someone steps up. Yeah? Maybe Fred's the genius that some people thought he is. Maybe McTominay kicks on, because he has progressed. Yeah? Don't forget, he won the inaugural Jose Mourinho Managerial Trophy, the Player of the Season award. Yeah? Who else has won that? No one. So, I'm going with United.
So that can only mean one thing. First, 21 is coming. Now, probably need a midfielder, but fuck it. 21 is coming.
We've heard our predicted 11s. We're pretty confident on the whole. That's not bad, is it? Pretty confident, but you've got to be going into a season, because otherwise, what are you watching for? If you think, it's hard to watch. I think we're going to win the league. We think we're going to win the league. Let us know what you think in the comments. Has there been any disastrous calls? Has there been any real... I mean, I know some people are going to laugh at me for saying Spurs will finish 5th, but I think they will. Let me know in the comments what you think. Again, in the comments below, give us your 1 to 20. And if you can't be asked giving all that, just give us your top 4. You know what I mean? It's comments, your comment, innit? Get it done. Thank you very much for watching. That was our season predictions 2021-2022. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in a bit.